This magnet has a strength of 10 kilograms. But what does that mean in real life? When you start learning about magnetic strength, you might see headlines about record-breaking magnetic fields over 45 Teslas. You might read that a neodymium magnet has a field of 1 Tesla, or that Earth's magnetic field, which protects us from solar radiation, is measured in tens of microteslas. However, the values expressed in Tesla, or in the older unit, Gauss, can vary significantly even within a small area around a magnet. Just above the surface, the field might be 1 Tesla, but just a few millimeters farther away, it can drop significantly.
Furthermore, judging a magnet's strength by Tesla is like measuring a river's power by looking at the flow in one tiny spot. If you don't know how wide or deep the river is, you can't really understand its strength.
Even two magnets with very different sizes can show the same field strength near the surface, but it's clear that the larger one will be stronger overall. That's why, although manufacturers often describe magnetic materials in Teslas or Gauss, it's more useful for everyday users when the seller gives the magnetic strength in kilograms. The magnetic strength in kilograms simply means how much weight the magnet can hold before it detaches from the surface in contact. But to match the value shown in the catalog, a few conditions must be met. First, the surface must be clean, solid steel, and thick enough, ideally at least half the magnet's height. Second, the pulling force must be straight and perpendicular. If the magnet is on a steel wall and something is hanging from it, gravity will pull it downward, and it may slide off before reaching its rated magnetic strength. Now the magnet no longer moves due to gravity, but we've come to the final and most important condition. The magnet must touch the surface with its entire face. A few things can get in the way of that, like if the steel surface is too thin or not ideally shaped. Also, you might want to prevent the steel from rusting by painting it. But that creates a non-magnetic gap between the magnet and the surface, reducing magnetic strength. So it might seem reasonable not to paint the base plate, but if rust starts forming on its surface, that rust layer also creates a gap, which in turn worsens the magnetic performance. Even an untreated, rust-free surface can be uneven or dusty, and the magnet won't stick properly across the whole surface.
In the next experiment, we'll try to recreate ideal conditions. The magnet will sit on a thick and flat steel base, and we'll pull it straight up. We will start with a neodymium magnet that is 10 millimeters wide and 5 millimeters tall. It has a rated magnetic strength of 2.8 kilograms. Our testing device includes a steel base that's 19 millimeters thick. A scale is hanging above it, connected to a threaded spindle, which lets us pull the magnet upward in a controlled way. The magnet is glued into a plastic pot. Before we begin, just a note. This simple setup isn't meant to confirm or reject the catalog numbers. It serves to give us a general idea of how magnets behave under different conditions. The magnet is in place and the scale isn't pulling yet.
Now I slowly turn the threaded spindle, and we can see the force building up. The display shows 2.88 kilograms. A little more turning and the magnet lifts off the base. The force drops. If I take one more measurement, the weight before detachment will show almost the same value as in the previous case. And the result indicates that the actual force for magnet detachment corresponds to the catalog value.
If your project needs a magnet in a custom size, you can have one made. But before that, it's smart to calculate the strength that magnet would need. That's what a magnetic strength calculator is for. It gives you an estimate based on your input.
Let's now see how magnetic strength changes with distance. We're still using the same 10 by 5 millimeter magnet. At about 6 millimeters from the steel base, the scale starts to register a few grams. At 3 millimeters, the strength is around 400 grams. At 1 millimeter, it jumps to 1.6 kilograms, and at full contact, the strength reaches nearly 2.9 kilograms. Two more tests confirm these numbers. Looking at the percentage drop, at 1 millimeter, we're at about 56% of the max. At just over 2 millimeters, the strength drops below 25%. Now let's try something different. Pulling one magnet away from another identical magnet instead of from a steel base. We'll use the same magnet as before. What do you think will happen? The magnet once again lifted off at 2.9 kilograms. Though at 1 millimeter between them, we still keep over 70% of the peak force. At 2 millimeters, it's about 45%. 25% of the original strength is reached as far out as 3.5 millimeters. Finally, let's look at a different type of magnet. A magnet inside a steel pot. The pot focuses the magnetic field on one side of the magnet. This magnet is rated at 10.6 kilograms, but in our test, it held up to 12.5 kilograms. Now let's see how it acts with distance. As you can see, the magnet tilts when it's slightly off the base. To keep it straight, we add a guide rail. At a 1 millimeter gap, the strength drops to only 11% of the full value. That's just 1.5 kilograms. So while the pot boosts the maximum magnetic strength when the magnet is in close contact, it also reduces the reach of its magnetic field.
As we've seen, a magnet's strength isn't just a catalog number. It depends on many things: distance, surface type, and the magnet itself. We hope this video helps you understand what really matters when using magnets in your own projects.